So welcome everyone to what I would hope, hopefully is one of many of our blog series. Today, I have the solar leadership team joining me. I am Mario Thomas, the Director of Product Marketing for Solar and Infrastructure and Imagery, but today is just about the solar team. With me, I have Dan Levy, Kendra Hubbard, and Pete Cleveland. So again, this is just a vlog to get to know about us. So I'm gonna kick it over to Kendra. I'm from the South, Southern gentlemen, ladies first. So Kendra, tell us about yourself.
Hey everyone, I'm Kendra Hubbard, as Mario mentioned. My title is officially Customer Solutions Architect, which nobody knows what that means. Basically, I run business development for the solar portion of Eagleview's business. I started in solar in 2010, and I worked in a variety of roles from manufacturing to distribution and installation, and joined Eagleview last year, working on software and integrating other products, or integrating Eagleview into those other products to help installers with their workflow. Before solar, I actually worked in roofing for a few years doing marketing and product development. I developed a reflective shingle product for Milwaukee Roofing. That was a really cool project to be involved in. And I saw an opportunity in the solar industry and felt that it would be a good place to have a career, a new and upcoming industry with lots of change, lots of opportunities. And especially as a woman, I felt like there would be more career places to take my career in solar as compared to roofing. I didn't see a lot of people like me in roofing, and even in solar, we've made great gains in being more diverse and kind of reflecting the customer base of solar, which I think is really wonderful. And throughout my time in mostly sales and business development roles, I've had the opportunity to take on some policy roles with state and federal trade associations in the solar industry to kind of help model where the industry grows and speak on behalf of installers throughout the country of what's important to them from a policy perspective.
Yeah, and policy sometimes can be somewhat boring and I guess infuriating too as well, right? So everyone in solar has done the ITC, the different tax credits. So why is policy important? I think you mentioned it, but tell us again.
Yeah, so I think it was 2014 or 2015, and I'm out selling solar products to installers in the Pacific Northwest. And often our conversations were around kind of, like you said, Mario, the ITCs. The ITC is going to drop, or we're not sure if it's going to be extended. And it really meant for those small to medium-sized business owners, they weren't able to plan long-term for what their business would look like. So they're always kind of at a cliff of what might happen and very reactive. And I saw an opportunity to serve on the Oregon SEIA board of directors and thought that it might be a way not to just influence the direction of what was happening from a policy perspective, but also to give that information to those business owners to help them plan, and also to represent them in that boardroom and in front of legislators to say what's important to the constituents of those policy and lawmakers. I did regional policy work in addition to my day job to help better inform installers and business owners. And then also I've served on the Federal Trade Association, SEIA, for about 5 years now, helping to influence kind of national policy. So to say it's boring, I think in my experience, sometimes when I go to DC, we're talking with legislators who have kind of a broad range of understanding and knowledge about the solar industry. There's definitely some partisanship, and that can be a little frustrating. But when you can speak to jobs and experiences of people who are in the industry, I think that's really impactful for those legislators to hear, senators and congresspeople. As probably most of you know who might be listening to this, the IRA did get a 10-year extension with a bunch of other provisions that will allow not only a more diverse workforce, but that 10-year roadmap, so those business owners can really plan. They can decide that they're going to invest in infrastructure or a new building or trucks for their crews, because they know that incentive for people who go solar is going to stick around for the long term. So it helps them be planful. And in addition to, community solar access, there's nonprofits weren't able to take advantage of the ITC prior because they didn't have a tax liability. So there's a carve out for that too. There's going to be, focuses on consumer protection, in addition to, battery storage and so many other really important provisions. So it is a lot of work. Sometimes it's repetitive, but being able to help represent those solar installers, state and federally, I think has been a highlight of my career, and also helps, me speak to them and what their needs might be. So I'm willing to put in the work, and I'm fortunate that I learn a ton from the people around me doing that policy work as well. So it's a labor of love for sure on my part.
Thanks for that. I guess we'll kick it over to Pete. Pete, you want to go?
Yeah, I mean, why not? That's I don't know how to follow that up, but yeah,
that's the solar coaster, right? 10 more years.
yeah. So a little bit about myself. Pete Cleveland, general manager for the solar business here at Eagleview. Like Kendra, I also started in solar in 2010. In 2018, I joined Eagleview. I joined on the product team. And in 2020, I was given the opportunity to start a dedicated business unit for solar. So really excited, with all the work that we're doing. I think, what's important to me and why, I wanted to start this business unit for Eagleview was from 2010 when I got into solar to 2018 when I left, I was an Eagleview customer. I used Eagleview's imagery, eventually started using their data sets, and did a lot of really cool things with it, but I also had to do a lot of work on top of what they were providing me to do the cool things. So did a lot of things around, process automation and elimination of site visits and optimization of system design and all these cool things. But it was almost frustrating to me, right? Because, I'm taking all this data from Eagleview and I'm like, you guys have such cool tech, but like, you're almost there, right? Like you're almost really helping me do what I want to do. So I kept knocking on the door until they let me in. So really excited to be here, and just excited about the products that we're building, the ways that we're helping contractors, the way that we're getting more solar out there in the market. And that's, I guess that's my professional about me. Maybe a little bit more personal, not as political as Kendra. Born and raised in New Jersey. Been around the country a little bit, but came back. I have 2 kids, 2 young girls. I have 2 dogs, and I have too many cats. So, and 10 chickens. Yeah.
As many cats, Pete?
There's cats. Okay, not as many as you. But I don't know how far back you want me to go. But if you don't mind, I'll tell you a little bit before solar what I did, and some of that really transitions today to what I look to bring to solar, and what I think the industry is capable of.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go that far back.
Yeah, I think it'd be great.
So I started. There's one of the dogs barking right now. Sorry. I actually started working at a young age. My father was a land surveyor, and I was a bad kid, so they sent me to work with my dad at a young age, and I learned the trade. So I just, young age, I grew up mapping the physical world, and with mathematics and equipment and geometry, right? From there, I got into civil engineering, and at the time, 3D modeling started to become even more popular. At that point, I transitioned to automated machine control. So installing automated machine control into Caterpillar, bulldozers and excavators and things like that, building 3D models that were automating the work on the job site, telling the machines where to go, how much to dig, how far to go, digging foundations, paving runways, things like that. So accuracy has always been very important to me, and it's hard when you try to map a physical world like a tree with accuracy. To do that accurately, it's a living object. Like, how do you do that, right? So there's some difficulty there. And then That career led me to the last position I had there. I was a foreman on the New Jersey Turnpike. So at a young age, I was running the job site. I was helping them extend that highway. And I did it all with technology, 3D models of the road surfaces, automated machine control. I could, guide the production of how those roads were being built with the data. And I was able to report quantities at the end of the day by pulling log files off the bulldozers, So, that my whole career is sort of like transitioned and grown into that, that same idea of like 3D data, accuracy, driving production, automation, right? And, 2010, the construction industry started really slowing down, and I had an opportunity to join this new solar company. I didn't know too much about solar at the time. One of my good friends was their licensed electrician. So I joined the company and immediately started helping the company design and develop their design practices, their measurement standards and practices and things like that. So, when I found Eagleview as a customer, to me, it was like what it provided me with was good data, right? Like it was, I can now pull good data on the physical world that could help me drive production in an automated fashion. Again, just like building, highways with automated bulldozers. So, just using Eagleview's data to start to automate some of those design practices to improve our quality, reduce our timeline. But like I said, that's about when I started getting frustrated that, they were almost cool. They were almost giving me everything I needed, but like, yeah, there's a roof model, there's no shade. Like I need shade. If you don't give me shade, I got to go get that, right? So that's, that's kind of my story of how I got here. And again, now just really excited to be in the position that I am, to sort of be at the controls of all these technologies and generating this data that's just helping, the industry automate, helping the industry get to install faster and reduce costs.
Right. Yeah, we're glad to have you. Dan?
Yeah, thanks.
Dan, you're next.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to story top that one, but
you're in Vermont, so I need to hear maple syrup at least once or twice.
That's true. So yeah, thanks, Mario. So I'm Dan Levy, Senior Product Manager here at Eagleview, kind of manage our solar product portfolio. Been with Eagleview for about a year and a half. But prior to that, my career has really been based around geospatial technologies and applied sciences. So back around when Kendra and Pete were first getting into solar, I was kind of working a lot on LiDAR capture and vegetation management for utilities, really working on process automation of analyzing those data sets, quality control, data management, and then just really reducing risk and efficiencies on our kind of company's infrastructure, if you will, our countries. From there, I kind of, transitioned a little bit more into product management. I really kind of view myself as somebody who continues to love to learn new technologies, but also just kind of solve problems, right? And really help enable customers to be successful. And I really did that in the geospatial space, on infrastructure, which is part of, what Mario and Eagleview works on, working with imagery. But then I also started to work in the utility sector space for solar, working with a company called NRG Systems, working on kind of weather stations that would capture irradiance data and all kinds of meteorological data for asset management and things like that. So when I got the opportunity to come on board Eagleview, I thought it was a pretty natural cross section of kind of what I've been doing most of my life, working with geospatial data to really solve complex problems with a continued emphasis on data management, accuracy, making kind of life easier. So when it comes to the digital twin of these 3D models, or working with digital surface models to have full 3D scenes to generate shade data at a really granular level, but then deliver it in a way that's consumable and extendable through kind of GIS infrastructure and things like that. Was really excited about the opportunity, kind of like Pete said, that Eagleview is just really well positioned with our imagery to kind of help a number of different industries, but really for solar to kind of get more granular and more accurate when it comes to roof measurements and shade data, and then eventually automation and using that data. So
Yeah, I think I've learned a lot from you in the time that I've been here. So I think you're definitely the expert. So I mentioned earlier that you're in Vermont, and I think there's a common misconception about solar in places like the Northeast or just solar anywhere where there's a bunch of shaded areas because of trees. How what can you say or to tell like our customers not to really worry about that? Like, because I'm originally from Mississippi, right? So there's no solar in Mississippi right now. I just let you know. There's none. But I live in Arizona, so there's of course beautiful sun. There's palm trees, but there's really no wooded or shaded area. So can you expound on that?
Yeah, I mean, the Northeast is definitely not, like the California market, Arizona, and those places in the solar industry. But I do think some people would be surprised the level of activity that we do have, considering the seasonality differences. I always like to joke Vermont has 6 seasons, not 4. We have winter, which everyone's familiar with, but then comes mud season. That's when all the snow melts. Then comes spring, then mud season. Then you have summer, then you have fall, and then we have stick season, which is when there's no leaves on the tree, but we don't have snow yet. So, and then comes winter. So Vermont technically has 6 seasons, in my opinion. And it's part of solar is it's fundamentally an investment, right? You're looking at the cost of electricity, the cost of equipment, what can you produce on your house? But the Northeast definitely presents some challenges, as a lot of houses are going to have trees closer to the property, especially trees taller than the house, as not a lot of the times they're not necessarily going over 2 stories sometimes. But generally, I would say if that investment works out, what these technologies have allowed us to do is really understand and model for the homeowner so they could have trust in what you're selling them. So I think a lot about what Eagleview does and a lot of the new technologies are doing for areas like the Northeast is really helping with consumer protection, right? That when you're telling them you could put this on their roof and they're going to generate this, that they should have confidence in it. And also as a contractor, right, you're not going to have these disputes multiple years after install because you're not actually meeting what you said you were going to install. So leveraging technologies of DSMs and point clouds and 3D models and digital twins is really what's powering that versus kind of really rough estimation on no offense, Pete, angles and math and things like that, right? But I think it's really when you start to replicate the actual 3D environment is when you could actually drive these results that's going to power the industry as well as consumers. I think the other thing I'll note is I think most people recognize that a referral is the easiest way to close new business, right? So in these tough markets where there are more variables that drive successful installs, the more accurate you are, the more likely that's going to turn into a referral, which is going to really help you kind of expand and grow your business in that new territory. So,
and I would add to Mario, to your point, it's interesting that we don't necessarily see the really sunny states with all of the solar, and part of that is policy, right? So I'm in Portland, Oregon. Like Dan, we have a lot of trees, we have a lot of shade, but there was a robust policy to incentivize that. So I would say that sometimes the unlikely places have more solar because they had legislators that were prompted to do that, whether it was for job creation or carbon goals, etc. So even in Portland, I have solar on my house. It doesn't produce a whole lot, but follow the incentives to know where a market might take off, especially on the residential side.
Yeah, that's actually.
And
This is the power of, as you can see, this is one of the things when you're on a video conference, right? We didn't put the hand up. I'm pretty sure this happens to everyone that's working from home or working remotely right now. Go, I'm sorry, Pete.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say?
No, I just want to say, and then there's the third leg of that, right, which is the rising utility costs, and just like everything else around us, that's just getting more and more expensive. So is electricity, right? So even in those areas where you don't necessarily get as much sunlight or the policies aren't as favorable, you reach that point where you realize that, hey, your electric bill just keeps climbing, right? And it's time to take control of that.
Yeah, and I mean, thankfully we work for a company that provides a lot of intelligence and data, so our customers can, in the market, can just make those informed decisions, right? I don't know if you guys noticed, but like the sun, so I'm sitting at my desk, so every time it gets dark or something like that, that's either a cloud is like blocking the sun, and so it's so weird, but you know, I can only imagine when you talk about in the Northeast and it's shades and trees and things like that, but you know, Eagleview has that data and that intelligence to say like, hey, during this time, this is good. I just wish it could tell me like when to like host a meeting so I get the best light. Is, you know, I think that's the next step to use our data. But I'm really, I was saying I'm really excited about like, you know, the next 10 years in solar. We discussed earlier the Inflation Reduction Act and what it can do to really help promote solar in some of those states that don't have it, and even some of the states that do have it, and to make sure that we continue to grow. So I think I'd like to end this by asking you guys, you know, give me your wacky and crazy prediction for this year or the next 10 years with solar, and then give me the tame and responsible one. And I will say that if if either one of them is wrong, we're gonna run a blooper reel at the end of the year, and we're gonna play like that, like big X over it and say like, oh, this person was wrong. So just so you know, it's coming. So anyone go first?
No pressure here. All
Um,
right, I'm gonna give you my tame one first.
yes, go for it.
Oh, ladies first.
First,
You got it.
First. You said it.
You got it.
So one of my least favorite wacky predictions, and it came out a few years ago, was around solar roadways. And it was so infuriating to to hear how much press time it got. And I took a step back and said, you know, it gets people talking about solar, so at least that's cool. So my wacky prediction is that in 10 years, solar roadways will have made a comeback in a variety of venues, that we will be driving on electricity producing power that will generate our cars and our infrastructure. And that's the wacky one. I don't know exactly if that's wacky enough, but that's what I would like to be proven wrong on solar roadways.
Pete, I think you're up next.
Yeah, I don't know if I can get wackier than a solar roadway. Maybe I'll start with my tame one. Because this one's real. You know, interest rates, and this one I think my tame prediction for 2023 is that you know, the solar industry is resilient. It's strong, right? And it's malleable, I'll say, right? So as new policies change, technologies come out, recessions hit, you know, the industry always sort of finds its way to form around it and keep going, right? So, you know, interest rates, the economy, there's all these things happening right now that I think, you know, towards the tail end of 22, I saw hampering some growth. But my tame prediction is that we just see new finance methods become more and more popular. You know, maybe the loans aren't as attractive, so the leases become more attractive. Maybe we even see, you know, the comeback of the PPAs. So that's pretty lame. Maybe I took the safe road, but bought myself the time to think of a wacky one.
Dan, either one.
Pete, he said tame prediction, not lame prediction, right? No. You know, I don't know if I have a crazy one, but I can tell you, like in the Northeast, one that I've been following kind of for quite a while is just the development and progress of like bifacial modules. You know, especially in more northern climates where the albedo effect for the underside of panels will also produce power. A little bit less applicable for the residential market, but we'll see where kind of technology goes. But that's one where you talk about areas that you don't traditionally think of solar being able to actually start to produce, you know, up to 10 or 20% more than what was actually previously expected, is, you know, borderline kind of breakthrough to continue to expand solar, and especially in hard to reach remote areas if you think about distributed and resilient grids. So I don't know if that's a crazy prediction, but that's something I've been following for a while that I've always found pretty cool, the development of it. So,
All right.
How about you, Mario?
I think the wacky one that I have is that someone will open a solar powered theme park and have a solar coaster ride. So to make it real.
Roller coaster.
Yeah, the solar coaster, right? The infamous solar coaster. So I think, I don't know if it's this year, but it will be something solar powered theme park and things like that, or a solar powered, I think a solar powered cruise ship would be nice. I think it's in talks, kind of like your solar roadway, but I would love to see a solar powered train or something like that. I think that's the wacky prediction for the future. Tame one for this year, I would agree that interest rates and things like that are going to be top of mind. But I also would say I think just about as we come into like another election cycle, right? It started in October, like all of the political posturing of green energy and what's not green energy. I think it's just we're gonna see the same old instead of really listening to the people on the ground level that will progress solar. So I can predict that at the end of the year, someone's going to want to kill solar, someone's going to not kill it, and it's talking about jobs and things like that. So I think that is my tame prediction for 2023.
I was in DC last December talking to a congressman from California, and I was describing our business, that we fly planes and take high-res imagery for solar, and he thought what I was saying is that we had solar-powered planes. And so my wacky goal for Eagleview is that in 10 years that our fleet is solar-powered.
I'm pretty sure that everyone would like that, right? That's the cost reduction.
Well, it's also, I mean, I'm on the committee for the ESG committee, so I mean, it's actually a real thing. We quantify the emissions from our aircraft, look at different ways that we could offset that or get the aircraft to become more efficient. Just, cost savings aside, like how do we, what's good for the environment and how do we do our part? So it's a real conversation. Talk about it weekly in our committee, and it's just, planes are funny, right? Because it's you look at that and you say, man, there's a lot of emission, right, coming from that aircraft, and you're polluting with. But then if you think about it, every single one of those homes that we just flew over and we generated some data on, and then a contractor needs to put a bid out, whether it's for solar or roofing or insurance carriers looking at hail damage, right, whatever it may be, think of how many miles that we just saved from the cars driving, right? How much emissions that we save by empowering like these remote business processes. So,
I think some of my maybe it's not tame or lame predictions, but what I would like to see in the solar industry is from a technology perspective. So in the IRA, there's a bunch of carve outs for domestic manufacturing. So we don't have, we are a net importer of solar products by 3 to 1 at least. And so I am excited to see the spur of domestic manufacturing so that when we look out in 10 years, we're actually a net exporter of solar products. I think with a 10-year plan, it's encouraging domestic manufacturing. There have been a handful of announcements of solar manufacturers building plants in the US. I think that's awesome. And then additionally, I think module level battery storage is going to really make a huge impact and difference, especially in states that have time of use rates like California, et cetera. So there's a handful of companies that are working on that, not specifically to residential, but for commercial, to have a battery that goes under 4 modules. But I would love to see, as we improve battery technology driven by electric vehicles, the reduction in cost and the increase in production, that just like we have a microinverter under our modules, we'll have module level battery storage as well.
I've never considered that.
So somebody start that business, please. You can get funding from the government to do it.
Hardware innovations aside too, something that I'm seeing more and more of and that really just excites me is like, when I started in solar, it was like no solar software technology out there, right? And like if you wanted a tool, you had to build it, right? And there's all these companies building their own tools, and And then what you started to see was all these software companies coming out, these new technologies coming out, right? And it's like, great, now there's finally some tools. But now what I'm predicting is a consolidation of those tools, right? Like just more of these software platforms working together. I mean, even for us, integration partners are extremely important to us. And, our strategy from day one is we want to empower these business processes, and we want to meet the customer where they're at. So, whether you use my design software or somebody else's design software, like, I don't really care. I just want to empower that experience and enable you to do better with accurate data, right? So I think we're going to start to see more consolidation of these technologies, but it's just cool. It's like an evolution of like the tool, right? Like, I mean, how much better did humans do with power tools than where we started with stones and sticks, right? So I'm really excited too, just to see, the benefit to the consumer, the cost savings, the speed, the efficiency that these technologies bring, and also new processes, right? Like, online sales, like website sales, B2C websites where you can just buy the solar and you don't necessarily have to have that salesperson in your house, right? So it's like these technologies, like I think we hit that point of like exponential growth, and part of this consolidation of technology, I feel like, is going to just empower this just like extreme efficiency that we haven't seen before, and it helps us as an industry like reach that level of maturity that we haven't had yet, right? So we're still like, just look at a lot of things that we do, and it's not any one of us in particular, right? Just the solar industry is still in infancy stages, right? So I know solar's been around for a long time, but look at the auto industry and how fast they pump out cars, and to the quality that they do it, and the cost that they do it, right? And who benefits? The consumer, right? Because they're able to keep costs down, well, somewhat, right? But yeah. So I'm really excited about that. Just aside from like the hardware, the innovation in hardware, just the innovation in technology that I'm seeing is just really cool.
Yeah, I think that would be an excellent way to end the vlog. I want to thank everyone for watching, and be on the lookout for us at some of the trade shows. I know Intersolar is coming up, of course, RE Plus, and be sure to stop by and do a demo and just talk to us. We'll have a special code. There will be some questions that you can answer to get the special code. So please pay close attention to some things. And I'll give you a clue right now. Dan is from Vermont, and he is a maple syrup connoisseur. So if you see Dan at one of the trade shows, walk up to him and tell him you know that he's a maple syrup connoisseur, and he can give you a code for one of our products. So again, thank you guys for joining us today. It's been great, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the future.
Thanks, Mario.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.